There's a hidden cost to waiting. It doesn't show up on your bank statement or in your analytics dashboard, but you can feel it in the stalled momentum, the draft that never gets published, the offer that stays stuck in your notes app. Waiting until you're ready sounds responsible, but for so many of us, it's really just fear in disguise. Waiting until we're ready. Not ready yet, need a better sales page, just one more training, maybe next month. On the surface, it might feel smart, responsible even, but underneath, it's often just fear of messing up, fear of judgment, fear of putting yourself out there and it not working. If you've been circling around your business plans, revising, refining, and reorganizing without actually moving, you're not alone. Prep mode can feel strangely satisfying. You're busy, you're thinking about your business all the time, but nothing's really happening. And that stillness over time, it takes a toll. This episode of Boldly Introverted, the online business podcast, is here to call that out. Not with shame, but with compassion. Because we've all been there. We all know what it's like to want to get it right before showing up. But what if that urge to perfect everything is costing you more than you think? Today, we're talking about why the wait feels so compelling and what it's actually costing you and how to start moving in small, doable steps, even if you don't feel ready. We don't always call it fear. Sometimes we call it preparation or planning, tweaking, learning. But often, it's fear dressed up in a really convincing outfit. And it feels responsible, thoughtful, strategic even, which makes it hard to question, especially when the world keeps shouting at us to do it right. But here's the truth no one talks about enough. Feeling ready is a complete myth, especially when you're building something on your own, especially when you care deeply about it, and especially when you're doing it as a person who feels the emotional weight of visibility. We want to feel certain before we act. We want to feel clear, confident, and locked in because that feels safe. But clarity often comes after action, not before. And that's where we get stuck because your brain isn't wired to crave growth. It's wired to crave safety. That's its job. It wants to keep you out of the unknown. And showing up with your offer, your voice, your actual self, that's deeply uncertain and often terrifying territory. So your brain throws up a bunch of protective strategies. Research more, learn a little longer, polish, wait. You're not procrastinating because you're lazy. You're stalling because you're human. And let's be real, prep mode gives you something. It gives you structure, control, the sense that you're doing something. And there is value in preparation. Systems matter. Strategy matters. But they only work if they eventually support real action. Otherwise, they become a very elegant kind of hiding. The hard part is, no one sees the cost right away. You look busy, you are busy. You're working hard, but if you're honest, your work's not really going anywhere. Your ideas are getting sharper, but they're not getting shipped. Your offer is more polished than ever, but still no one really knows about it. You're putting in time, but you're not getting momentum. That's when you know you've crossed into the trap. Prep mode has become a place to stay instead of a place to start from. And listen, I know this is a little tender, especially for those of us who have been burned before, who've launched something and heard crickets, or who carry stories about not being good enough, or not being ready, not being the type of person who does this. That stuff doesn't vanish just because you bought a new course or you cleaned up your website. But you don't heal those stories by waiting to be more ready. You heal them by taking small, imperfect steps and proving to yourself that you can survive the uncertainty, that it's safe to move forward even without those guarantees. Because readiness doesn't show up on your doorstep like a package from Amazon. You build it through motion, through trying, through learning, through showing up with your full human self and saying, this matters to me, even if it's not perfect yet. And that moment, that's the beginning of real momentum. So let's move into the hidden cost of staying in prep mode because it doesn't get talked about enough. Prep mode isn't neutral. It feels like a safe in between, not quite starting, not quite stopping, but it has a cost. And over time, that cost adds up. You lose time, you lose momentum, you lose income. But more quietly, and maybe most painfully, you start to lose trust in yourself. Every week you delay, that offer stays stuck in your head. That community you want to build doesn't hear from you. The experience you're craving of helping people, being known for your work, feeling like a real business owner, it stays just out of reach. And it's not because you're not good enough. It's because you've paused. You're on hold, waiting for some magical signal that probably isn't coming. And that pause, it starts to get real heavy. Momentum doesn't come from thinking. It comes from moving, from testing and launching and learning and refining. When you don't give yourself the chance to do that, your confidence starts to erode. It's quiet and slow, like a leak you don't notice until the floor's warped and buckling. You might find yourself second-guessing decisions you used to feel very clear on, doubting your ideas, scrolling instead of creating. And the longer you stay there, the more tangled it feels. Because now it's not just about launching something, it's about rebuilding belief in yourself. So let's talk money too, because yes, there's an energetic and emotional cost, but there's also a financial one. If you wait 6 months to put your offer out there, that's 6 months of missed opportunities. Not just for sales, but for learning, refining, figure out what actually works. Business isn't built in your head. It's built in motion, in the doing, you know? There's also the cost of creative stagnation. Prep mode, when prolonged, gets stale. You start feeling disconnected from your work. Ideas that once felt exciting now feel heavy. You procrastinate even more. The resistance builds. And it becomes easier to believe the lie that you're just not cut out for this. It becomes a vicious cycle. But here's the good news. All of that shifts the moment you move, even a little. Send the email, post the offer, tell someone what you're working on. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be real, because that's what shifts the energy. That's what creates traction, and that's what rebuilds self-trust. You don't need a massive launch plan or a perfect funnel. You just need to do one brave thing and just let it ripple out. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I want to move, but I don't even know where to start, that's exactly why I created the Empowerment Alliance membership. It's built for moments like this, for women who don't want hype or pressure, just clear, calm support to help you get your ideas out of your head and into the world. Inside, you'll find simple guides, time-saving templates, and practical help with tools like FEA Create, Notion, and Canva, plus a private, grounded community that gets what it's like to build something at your own pace. If that sounds like what you've been craving, you can join the waitlist today. The link is in the show notes. And when doors open, you'll be the first to know. Because sometimes the thing that helps you take that next brave step is not having to do it alone. So here's the thing. Motion doesn't have to mean burning yourself out. In fact, the more sustainable your steps, the more likely you are to actually keep going. So next, we're going to talk about how to shift into action without overwhelming your system, starting exactly where you are. Let's be honest. One reason so many of us stay in prep mode is because the alternative feels like too much. The idea of going all in or finally launching that offer can feel overwhelming, especially when you're already mentally and emotionally maxed out. So instead of moving, we freeze. Not because we don't care, but because we care so much that the pressure feels paralyzing. But what if taking action didn't mean pushing yourself to the edge? What if you could move forward in a way that feels steady, sustainable, and actually doable, even on your low energy days? Start small, like truly, uncomfortably small, like post one sentence about what I'm working on small. The point isn't to prove how much you can do. It's to start building the muscle of movement again, of following through on what matters, even in tiny, tiny doses. Think in terms of experiments, not launches. Try things. Watch what happens. Adjust. That post doesn't need to go viral. That email doesn't have to convert like magic. What matters is that you're practicing visibility, you're learning in real time, and you're in motion. And this is where your tools, like Notion and Canva and FE Create, whatever you're using, can either support you or stall you. So use them to reduce friction, not create more. Map out a basic content plan in Notion. Design a quick post in Canva and hit publish before you can overthink it. Set up a super simple offer form in FEA Create and start inviting people in. Don't aim for perfect, aim for done enough. Then do it again. One of the most powerful things you can do is celebrate these small steps. Not just the outcomes, but the fact that you showed up, that you moved, that you honored your business by treating it like something real. Those moments build trust, they build resilience, and they build proof. And over time, those small actions compound. You go from stuck to steady, from hiding to visible, from prepping to creating real momentum. So let's talk about what really builds momentum in your business. And no, it's not the perfect funnel or the most polished offer. It's self-trust. Because without self-trust, even the best strategies won't get you far. You'll second-guess every move, stall on every decision, and quietly talk yourself out of showing up again and again. But here's the beautiful thing. Self-trust isn't something you either have or you don't. It's something you build. One small action at a time. Every time you do the thing you said you'd do, even if it's small, even if it's messy, you reinforce the belief that you can trust yourself to follow through. And that's what starts to shift everything. It's not about launching flawlessly. It's about saying, I'll send that email on Thursday, and then actually doing it. I'll post once this week, and then actually doing it. I'll ask one person if they want to join my wait list, and then actually doing it. These moments might seem tiny, but they're actually rewiring your brain. They're showing you that action is safe, that visibility doesn't destroy you, that your voice matters, even if only 5 people hear it right now. On the flip side, when you constantly delay, push things off, or just completely ghost your own ideas, you chip away at that trust. Slowly, your brain starts to associate entrepreneurship with disappointment. Not because you failed, but because you never gave yourself a chance to actually begin. Imperfect action is powerful, not just because it creates results, but because it creates evidence. Evidence that you're capable, that you're committed, that you're actually doing this, not just thinking about it. And that's what shifts a stalled idea into a growing business. So if you've been stuck in prep mode for longer than you'd like to admit, start here. Pick one small action. Make it doable. Follow through. Celebrate it. That's not just a to-do list. That's how you rebuild trust in yourself, just one step at a time. So here's what I hope you take away from this conversation. You don't need to feel fully ready to begin. Waiting until everything is perfect, polished, and mapped out might feel responsible, but more often, it's just a way to delay the discomfort of showing up. And the longer you wait, the heavier it gets. Not just on your to-do list, but in your body, your energy, your confidence. You're not behind. You're not doing it wrong. But if you've been circling your ideas for months or years, maybe this is your moment to shift. Not to hustle, not to launch something huge overnight, but to pick one thing, one step, and just move. Send the email, publish the post, build the basic version of your offer. Start now with what you have, because that's how everything you're dreaming of actually begins. Not with readiness, but with a decision to stop waiting. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to subscribe and leave a review. It helps Boldly Introverted reach more women like you and reminds me that these conversations still matter. And if you're ready to stop waiting and start building momentum in your business, join the waitlist for the Empowerment Alliance membership. You'll be the first to know when the doors open. You can find the link for that in the show notes. Thanks for being here. Till next time.